What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Girl Who Talks Sports, the podcast where we talk sports and other girly things. I'm Sam Cardona, and thank you guys so much for listening today. So we have another great show lined up today. We had Brittany Bennett, who is the creator of the Football is Female Instagram page, on as our guest this week. We go over the Super Wildcard weekend that just happened on Saturday and Sunday. And we go over our predictions for the 4 games for next week in this NFL playoff game. Super, super exciting. But before we get into our show today, we have to do our plugs. So don't forget to follow us on and subscribe on all podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Castbox, wherever it is that you get your podcasts from. You can subscribe to The Girl Who Talks Sports and leave a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. So that really helps me out. And also don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Girl Who Talks Sports. We post full-length podcast episodes there, as well as extra content videos. I've been saying this for a while, but I have projects in the works currently. There will be extra content videos up this week, so I'm super, super excited about that. And finally, don't forget to follow us on social media, TGWTS Podcast, that we are both on Twitter and we are on Instagram. So make sure that you give us a follow there for updates, videos, clips, me freaking out about games. It's a fun time. It's a really, really good time. So make sure that you follow us there. All right, everybody. So before we get into our interview portion of our show, we always have just one story to go over every single time. It's just the nature of it at this point. This was pretty big news. It broke yesterday. Today is Tuesday. This broke on Monday, the 11th. The Eagles have fired Coach Doug Peterson. I think that a lot of people were expecting this to happen. A lot of people weren't all that excited. But someone who was very excited was a reoccurring guest on the show, Sporty Jordy, who is a diehard Eagles fan. Jordan O'Rourke Coupe calls me up maybe seconds after I received the notification, screaming of happiness that she was just like so happy that this guy was out of this organization and out of her life. So from an Eagles fan perspective, they are pretty stoked about this. That last game that they played against the Washington football team, which then led the Washington football team to make it to the playoffs, was a dumpster fire. We talked about it last week, a pretty blatant tank at this point, and it was a bit of a sad sight for the Giants, because if the Eagles won, the Giants would have made the playoffs, but that's all behind us at this point. Nothing we can do about it now. But Doug Peterson no longer has a job. There are ties to the Jets right now, which is, I think, scary for Jets fans. I don't think they want him. I don't think anybody really wants him at this point. But after a 4-11-1 season, Doug Peterson, unless they, I don't know what happened in terms of this tanking game that happened. I don't know if they told him to do it. I don't know if he took it upon himself. I don't know if they maybe said, hey, you'll still have a job when the draft comes around, and then completely go back on their word. I have no idea what's going on in the whole situation. It's weird. But Doug Peterson is gone. And I think the funniest thing to come out of all of this is that, yes, this man got Philadelphia a Super Bowl, and he ran the Philly special with Nick Foles. Neither of these people are with the Philadelphia organization anymore, and yet there is a statue outside Lincoln Financial Field with both Nick Foles and Doug Peterson discussing doing the Philly special, which was like probably one of the coolest plays a lot of us has ever seen. So that, I think, is something in and of itself, the fact that a coach that coached for 5 seasons and was fired is outside your field, as well as a backup quarterback who you then let go after that Super Bowl was won, is just astronomically wild. I am perplexed at Philadelphia. I've seen people on Twitter say, like, next year Philadelphia is going to win the division. I don't know about all that. I think you guys need to figure yourselves out first before you talk about next year and winning the division. Coming from a team where I don't even know what we're doing this offseason, who knows who we're going to be drafting at 11. People have ideas, but it's a whole thing. So don't talk about next year and winning the division quite yet. You guys need to figure out, you need a head coach first. You don't have a head coach. So figure that out first and then start talking about next year. The final thing to come out of this is that odds are Carson Wentz is not going to leave Philadelphia at this point. They're going to try and make something work because the whole contract thing, it is so dumb. It's so stupid to let this man go and have Jalen Hurts as your quarterback, which once they figure him out, you'll just be at square one again. So, the man now played 4 or 5 games. Like, there's tape on him now. By next year, people will know how to deal with Jalen Hurts. It also doesn't help the fact that you have an aging O-line, no receivers. You really struggled in the draft last year. It's just not great. But I do think that Wentz isn't going anywhere. I don't think he was ever going anywhere. To be quite honest, I think that he said all that stuff to kind of, raise his stock a little, make him a little bit more desirable. Like, no, Carson, we don't want you to leave. We want you to stay. We also have to give you so much money. We don't want to pay you all this money while you're on a different team or sitting on the bench as a backup to Jalen Hurts. So the Eagles have a lot of things to figure out. They have a lot of things to deal with in terms of their head coach. I've also heard that Adam Gase is in the mix for head coach here. So good luck with that. There's just too much going on. So why don't you find a head coach, draft a receiver, fix your offensive line, figure out who's starting in your quarterback, and then the Eagles might be able to figure out next year. All right, everybody. So without further ado, let's get into this interview with Brittany, and we're going to talk about the Wildcard weekend and our predictions for next week. So here that is. Okay, everybody. So we are joined today by Brittany Bennett of the Football is Female Instagram page. Brittany, thank you so much for joining today. I'm so excited.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, this is I'm
so excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So we're going to be going over the wild card. We're going to do some predictions and all that good stuff. But before we do, why don't you tell everybody about your Instagram page a little bit?
Sure. So the inspiration for creating my Instagram page was actually from other people in other Instagram pages, because I've always been a football watcher and a football lover. And during quarantine, I came across these pages on Instagram that were like full of drama and inaccurate garbage. So I really just wanted to make my own page, that's more truthful and accurate. And I also wanted to kind of get rid of the narrative that girls don't know anything about football, which is like totally inaccurate.
Right.
So yeah,
that's amazing, and I love it because as a female putting out stuff on the NFL, when I saw your page, I was so excited because I was like, oh, this is great. I love having more women in sports and everything like that. So I see that you're a 49ers fan. You have a
I am, yes, I am.
That's it was a bit of a rough year for you.
It's been a rough year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, terribly.
All right, so unfortunately we can't talk about the 49ers in today's episode since they weren't in the playoffs, but to be fair, I'm a Giants fan, they're not in the playoffs either, but we had 6 games go on. So I want to start off and go in order. We're going to start with the Bills and the Colts. So in my opinion, this was probably one of the best games of Wildcard weekend. But what did you think of this game overall?
I thought it was crazy. It was crazy good. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs went off. They really did. They turned it up when they needed it the most, and that's why they're in the playoffs and moving on.
Yeah, do you think that there's a lot of talk that the Bills right now are this monster team and can possibly make their way to the Super Bowl? Do you think that this team and Josh Allen are capable of making it all the way?
Oh yeah, I believe that Josh Allen and the Bills are playing at a championship level right now. Um, but however, I do believe that Kansas City will be a real problem for them going forward.
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah,
Totally. I totally agree. And I think that's the major thing is that people are a little bit concerned about Josh Allen and them going up against Patrick Mahomes, but they're definitely going to be a hard team to get past, but I don't think it's totally out of the question. I think that a Bills Chiefs
no,
AFC game would be really interesting.
Patrick Mahomes he's had his moments this year where he's not quite the same Patrick Mahomes that we've seen. You know, he's had his downs. And if Josh Allen and the Bills can really fire it up, then who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, and in this Bills Colts game, I mean, it was back and forth the whole time, and it came down to the literal last seconds of this game. We saw Philip Rivers basically chuck it down the field
Yes.
and hope for the best, basically. And he was a little emotional in his press game conferences. Like, what do you think is going to go on with Philip Rivers? Do you think
Yes.
that he's done?
I think it's too early to answer that question confidently, but as far as speculation goes, I would say he's not done. I think that the fact that he did get emotional after the loss is very telling in my opinion. I think that he doesn't want his career to end on that kind of note, but I could be wrong.
Well, yeah, of course. It's always up to speculation, but yeah, I mean, the
Yeah.
people are definitely talking about it
Yeah.
right now though, because at some point they all got to come to an end. I mean, in this class of quarterbacks, it was Philip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, and Eli Manning. We saw Eli Manning go last year, so
Yeah.
definitely coming down to the end here. But I mean, this is the first time that the Bills have won the playoffs in like 25 years. This was a really big deal for them.
I
I'm
know.
I
Yeah.
was really, and to be honest, I was like looking for a team to root for the playoffs since my team wasn't in it. I am on this Bills bandwagon like
Yeah.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, is there any team that you're like
Yeah.
kind of rooting for in the playoffs, or do you think that like you're just rooting for 49ers?
Um, the Chiefs. The Chiefs.
It's
I
a good
I
team.
love watching Mahomes. I think he's a great, great, great player, you know. So that's who I want to see. But the
Yeah,
Bills,
I mean,
it's nice for them because, you know, they haven't had success like this in a long time. So
oh
to
yeah,
see them
absolutely.
make it pretty far would be exciting.
Absolutely. I was last year I was definitely rooting for the Chiefs to make it in, and the fact that they won the Super Bowl, I know obviously wasn't great for you guys on your end, but seeing the Chiefs win the Super Bowl last year was something special, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Especially
yeah.
since Patrick Mahomes was so new.
Mhm. Yeah, no, and I definitely think that like, I know that you're a 49ers fan and everything, but well, actually let me just ask you really quick
Yeah.
since you are a 49ers fan. Do you think that like what do you think is going to go on next year? I know they were talking about getting rid of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh my goodness. Oh. There's so much going on. Like they think the 49ers are going to get Deshaun Watson now because of his situation in Houston. And I think they're going to stay with Jimmy and I think they should. I think they should.
Yeah, I
Cuz
mean,
healthy, he's taken the team to a Super Bowl. I mean, what more do you need to know?
oh
Really?
yeah, very very true. I mean, at that point, do you really want to get rid of him? But yeah, he was injured all year. Wasn't the best in terms of injuries. I mean, between Nick Bosa, George Kittle, all those guys, it was a bit of a rough season for you guys.
Insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, the And I think Richard Sherman was out for a little while too, right?
Yeah, I think they all were out at some point.
Yeah. So you guys were not on your best season this year, but we'll see what they end up doing in the off season. But yeah, so overall, Bills Colts, I think that it was probably the best game of the weekend, the most exciting. The next game that came up to me was a bit of a snooze fest. We had the Rams and the Seahawks. It was 30-20 in the final, where the Rams came out on top. Did you see anything special going on in this game, or are you kind of on the same level as me here?
The only thing that I feel like stuck out was Jared Goff towards the end of the game. How accurate he was with his injury. But other than that, I was very shocked by the Seahawks, and their offense was awful. Like, it was just one mistake after the other. The offensive line could not stay together. It was collapsing. It was just, Russ was trying to cook. He really was, but they were just not letting him.
I know it was definitely rough to watch for the Seahawks. And like, the thing is too, like they were saying in the beginning of the season, Russell Wilson is going to be the MVP. And then it was just like, it just fell right off because he was not playing at an MVP level at all. And in the beginning, I mean, Jared Goff wasn't even going to play in this.
Absolutely not.
Jared Goff was out here with his thumb injury, like you were saying, and John Wolford is coming in, and then he gets, a really bad hit against Jamal Adams. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, he was taken to the hospital.
Taken off in a stretcher, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, he had to get taken to the hospital, and it was not great for John Wolford there. But Jared Goff came in. I think he did great with his thumb. I mean, yeah, maybe it might have hurt him a little while he was playing, but you couldn't see it at all. Like, I couldn't tell.
No. Tough guy. Really tough, I think.
And he just had surgery too, like 12 days ago. So it was, definitely tough guy for Jared Goff here. But are you surprised that, I mean, this is your division, the NFC West is, these teams you go up twice a year. Do you see the Rams, like, were you surprised to see the Rams win here, or did you think that the division champions, the Seahawks, were going to win?
I was completely shocked, honestly. Like, the Seahawks are usually on fire. Russell throws moon balls like no tomorrow. And I think after that DK interception, the game shifted entirely. Like, it just wasn't the normal Seahawks that we've been used to seeing week after week.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like I had the Seahawks winning in this game. I've not even paid attention to the Rams this year. I think the Rams are really boring to watch. They might be a good team, but I just don't think that they're all that exciting. But no, I totally agree with you. I thought that the Seahawks were going to win here, but it seems like everything just was going wrong there. And then I also just want to ask you, do you think that Seattle definitely lost this game, right? Like the Rams outplayed them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was very, I felt like this game went on for like 87 years. Like it didn't stop. And I thought that it was over in like the third quarter.
Yeah.
And it was still going on.
Tyler Lockett made a few great catches, but I mean, other than that, their coverage was really good, the Rams. I was surprised.
Yeah, it was
usually Russell can find the spots and their receivers can, but
no, I totally agree with you. And the Rams even had Cam Akers, who I think had over 170 yards from scrimmage, which is very impressive. I think he broke some sort of rookie record for the playoffs. But yeah, the Rams showed up, but I just I'm not sure the Rams are going to continue on. But to be fair, they did make it to the Super Bowl that one time. But that was boring as well.
That one time.
Yeah. they're not fun to watch, in my opinion. They're really boring.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So Rams Seahawks really wasn't all that exciting. But the Rams will be continuing on, and the Seahawks have to work on their everything, their offense, their defense, everything that's going on with them. The last game from Saturday was the Buccaneers and the Washington football team, where the Buccaneers came out on top, but I think just barely. The Washington football team had Taylor Heinicke come out, and he had a rushing touchdown. He threw for 306 yards. What did you think of Taylor Heinicke's performance as a backup quarterback?
Oh my gosh. He balled out. And the fact that he had a shoulder injury and he still went on, I was like, he's just really trying to finish it out for his team, even though he's not even the starter. I'm over here like, wow, the effort this man put in. I just can't say enough about it.
Yeah, he blew me away. I really wasn't expecting that much out of this game. Going up against someone like the Buccaneers and Tom Brady, I thought that this was gonna, be nothing. But he showed up.
They weren't playing great either.
Yeah, this wasn't
Tom Brady couldn't connect to some of his receivers. It was very odd. They were dropping balls, and I was like, wow, that's just not what we're used to seeing from Brady at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm very anti Tom Brady. I've never liked Tom Brady, but I think
me too. Actually, me too.
I've hated the Patriots for a really long time, so even though he's on another team, I can't
right.
hate him, but I still respect him. He's still probably one of the best quarterbacks that we've ever seen, but no, this is not the same Brady that we were used to. And so, speaking on the fact that this wasn't their best game, do you think that the Buccaneers have any chance? Like, people are saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but from that performance, I don't see that happening.
No, I don't see it happening either, but I do think they have a great shot if they can consistently be good and consistently win, and they have great players, they have the best quarterback in the league, arguably, and they could be an explosive team, and I think that if they stay consistent, that the sky is really the limit for what they can achieve. But the problem is if they can actually do it.
Right. Yeah, that's the main concern there. But I think that in terms of Washington, they really put on a good performance. I didn't think anybody thought they were going to win, which is fair because last week they basically had their game handed to them since the Eagles just lost just because they felt like losing. But that's a whole other thing that I will not get into.
Oh my god.
I have enough thoughts on that. But there was even Chase Young, who is the rookie defensive guy for Washington, big name.
I know, he was all talk. He had so much to say, and then I was waiting for that moment where he would just live up to his words, and it just never happened.
No, last week he was like, "Bring me Tom, I'm ready for him. Bring me Tom Brady." I was like, "You didn't get near that man, like not even a little bit." I was like, like, come on, you gotta. If you're gonna speak on all that stuff, like at least try and sack the guy. But apparently, that was not in the cards for him this week. No, but yeah, so I'm just like glancing over my stuff here from this game was also really not all that exciting. Like I said, the Bills-Colts game for me was probably the most entertaining, but I mean, yeah, Taylor Heinicke stole the show. He did fantastic, and I'm not 100% sure that this is the playoff Tom Brady that we've seen in the past. But let's move on to the Sunday games.
Nope, I don't think so.
Yeah. But I want to move on to the Sunday games. And that was Ravens Titans. And that was the first game. Another boring game for me. The Ravens ended up coming out on top, though, which I was a little surprised about. Who did you have in this game? Who did you think was going to win?
Titans, I thought they had it for sure.
Yeah, no, me too. I was under the impression that Derrick Henry was going to ball out and get points and all this stuff, but Lamar Jackson won his first playoff game, which was really exciting. But I think that he won this game by himself, if that makes sense. I don't think the Ravens are a team.
Yeah.
I think it's just the Lamar Jackson show. What do you think?
Yeah. I think he is a big contributor to the team, if not the biggest. But I don't think he won it by himself because there were a lot of players that helped him make his runs as successful as they were. But in my opinion, the Ravens would not have come as far as they have without Lamar Jackson being their starting quarterback.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was basically last year, like, we were all aboard the Lamar Jackson train. We saw him tank in the playoffs last year against this same team. So he definitely had something to prove here, that playing the Titans was something that he needed to win, because I think that if he lost this game, people were going to be like, well, like, he can't win a playoff game. He might be able to do all this other stuff, but can't win a playoff game. But in terms of, the other side of things, Derrick Henry did 40 yards rushing. Absolutely nothing out of him. Like, I saw nothing. The Ravens defense was able to totally stop him and not even give him the time of day. But I was perplexed.
I thought they were gonna make like a decoy play. Like sometimes they use Derrick to like make a decoy, and they just didn't even try to do that. They just kept giving him the ball when clearly it just wasn't happening. Like,
no. Yeah. I've seen those plays as well, when Tannehill will look like he's passing it off to Derrick and then run it himself and get the touchdown. Like, they like to do that, but I was surprised to see this. I mean, this Titans team, we saw them last year come out of nowhere. Their playoff run last year surprised everybody, I think. But I was expecting more out of this game.
Yeah.
And again, not all that exciting, right? I mean, apart from Lamar Jackson's touchdown run, I think
that's the only exciting thing.
Yeah. That was all that I saw. That it was Lamar Jackson's touchdown run, and that was it. So for this game, really not all that exciting, but the Ravens will continue on, and we'll see if they can win another playoff game. But we'll get into the predictions after we go through the other two games. So then it was Saints-Bears, and this was very one-sided. The Saints won 21-9. I'm curious, what did you think of like the Bears' performance on this side with Mitch Trubisky and all them?
Man, I just think it was very flat. I mean, that trick play that they had could have worked. It was impressive. I thought it was going to work until the guy dropped it. And I was like, come on, man. Like, you gotta grab those. Like, it's playoffs, man. You gotta make that catch. Like, I don't care.
I know. Yeah, you're 100% right. I thought that. I was like, this is not the time to be dropping balls right now. This is the time to get things done. Do you think that the Bears are going to get rid of Mitch Trubisky after this, or do you think he's going to stick around?
I don't know. He's a very hot and cold quarterback. Like, he has his moments of glory and then his not so glorious moments. But I think the bottom line is simple for Mitch. If he wants to remain a franchise quarterback, he has to figure out how to consistently win football games. And so far, he has not proven that he can do that at all.
Yeah. So this game was broadcasted for the first time on Nickelodeon. Were you watching the Nickelodeon broadcast?
I started out not watching it because I forgot that it was on Nickelodeon, and then I quickly changed it, and I'm so glad I did because it was the greatest thing I've ever experienced.
I know. I was so excited to see this on Nickelodeon. I mean, they had slime cannons, they had SpongeBob graphics, they had the craziest commentary. I think at some point they were talking about whose ice cream flavor was their favorite and all this stuff. But did you like it? Do you think that they should have more playoff games on this?
I do. I think it's a nice like twist on a playoff game. It's very fun and exciting, and especially with the games that can be kind of boring and drag on and are not so exciting. It kind of adds a little extra to them that makes you want to watch it.
Yeah, I started out watching it on Nickelodeon, and then I switched to CBS because I was like, okay, I'm actually not following the game and I'm looking at everything else going on. So I have to switch to actually watch the game for a few minutes. And then I switched back to Nickelodeon because
Right, yeah.
they were just like the commentary was so good. So
yeah.
It was just
That's
like
the only thing I didn't really like about it is I like the football talk, and they were just, messing around a lot, and that's the only thing that I was like, well, I kind of want to know what's going on here. I mean, this is all fun, but at some point I want to hear what they all have to say about what's going on.
Yeah, that was one of the things that it was obviously geared towards children, so it was kind of like to teach kids about things going on in football. Like they were explaining the penalties, and obviously for people who watch football, for forever, it's like, well, we don't need to know what a false start is. Like we know what a false start is. But in terms of the fact,
right,
it was geared to children, so for them it was probably super entertaining. But just like the graphics and like the overall thing was so fun, and it kind of took me back to my childhood a little bit because I was like, wow, it's Nickelodeon, there's slime. That was like the most amazing thing for me was the slime.
I didn't think Sean Payton was gonna get slimed, and I'm really excited that he did because that was great.
I know, because I was a little upset. I was like, oh my God, I don't know if they're gonna actually slime somebody or if it's just like they have these buckets of slime for nothing. And then the video came out of Sean Payton, and I was like, yes, thank God that somebody got slimed. It would have been like not a Nickelodeon podcast if he didn't get slimed. So
right.
I enjoyed it, but I agree. At some points, I was like, okay, I need to focus on the actual football. But before we finish off this game, Drew Brees is mostly in the news right now because he's possibly going to be retiring after this season. Do you see Drew Brees finishing up his career?
I think that he is going to, because he realizes that the Saints are a really good football team right now, and I think that he realizes that this year is the best shot he's going to have at making it to the Super Bowl. And I think how far they've come is a great note to end. And plus his injuries, his 11 broken ribs, that's insane. A collapsed lung. Yeah. Like he's getting older, like, man, I don't know. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that this is it for him, but it would be nice if they could go out with a Super Bowl. I don't know if the Saints are going to make that happen or not. But the last
Right.
game, the last game here is Steelers Browns. And I'm kind of happy this was the last game of the weekend, because it threw me and I think everyone for a loop.
Oh
And
God.
I mean, the Browns started out in the first quarter 28-0. I mean, what were you thinking as the beginning of this game happened?
The first snap, I knew it just wasn't gonna be good. After that touchdown that the Browns took away from that, I was like, oh God, this is not good. I just could see it not ending well for the Steelers.
Yeah, I was actually perplexed. That first snap, I was like, okay, it's only 7-0. You know, the Steelers can definitely make their way down the field and get a touchdown. And none of that happened for so long. And I was like, who are these Steelers? I mean,
Oh yeah.
this Steelers team was 11-0 like a month and a half ago. I mean, do you think that
Yeah.
they were undefeated, but do you think that,
Hmm.
like, maybe throughout their season, did they get progressively worse? Were they never an undefeated team? Like, what happened to the Steelers here?
I think they're still a good team. I mean, if you look at their roster, they have talent. They found ways to win football games, and that's what good teams do. I just think they sort of fell out of the groove that they were in. Roethlisberger threw a couple bad balls, which resulted in turnovers, and that's what really costed them the game. I still think that they're a solid team, but even the greats have their bad days, their bad throws, their bad games. So
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And, like, people were saying, like, oh wow, the Steelers suck now, this and that, blah blah blah. Like, they still won 12 games. Like, they might have had an easy schedule, but they
right.
still won 12 games. And it just, they were going to go to the playoffs. It's just the way it was. But I think that they played the Browns last week. The Browns came in ready for them. They knew exactly what they needed to do. Do you think that this Browns team is legit? I mean, we haven't seen the Browns in the playoffs for, like, feels like centuries at this point. But can the Browns actually do something with this playoff run?
I think that they're very legit. Baker Mayfield is doing everything right now. I think that if they get their offensive line healthy and back on the field and ready to just protect him in the pocket and let him do what he does best, that this is going to be a very hard team to beat going forward.
Yeah, and their coach has COVID. Like, he wasn't even there. This was all, their coaching staff was all
It's
messed up.
crazy.
I'm like actually perplexed that this is how many points they put on the board. But then
This
also,
was definitely a super wild card weekend.
indeed it was. It was definitely a super wild card weekend. But but yeah, no, this Browns team, we saw them put 40 something points on the board when they played the Ravens a couple weeks ago, and to see them put this much points on the board
Yeah.
again, I would not be surprised if they put up a fight against Kansas City next week. I don't know if they're going to win, but I don't know. This Browns team is very surprising. But then also on the Steelers side
Yeah, they
again,
are.
do you see Ben Roethlisberger hanging it up soon? I mean, he was crying after the game. He didn't even want to get up off the bench.
Yeah, right. I don't necessarily think that he's going to give it up. I think that the miscues that happen during the game isn't just on Ben. It's on the whole team. And they all just fell into a weird funk. And it's a big game for them to lose, given that they were an undefeated team in the beginning of the season and, the script pretty much flipped on them. So, I mean, I believe Roethlisberger is a solid quarterback, generally speaking. So I would be shocked if he, again, decides to leave his career on this sort of note, sort of like Phillip Rivers would if he left.
Right. No, I think I agree with you, and Ben even said like they think there's another year on his contract. He's probably saying if you guys want me, I'll be here. But you could tell he was so emotional, and all these guys, a lot of the veterans were very emotional after this game. They were actual
And
grown men.
rightfully so, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. And they were, the grown men crying just goes to show how much they actually cared about this game. And, a lot of them went into it thinking they were going to
Right.
win. Even Juju was crying, and he's, a young guy, which brings me to our next thing that I wanted to ask you about, which was Juju's kind of been running his mouth a little bit. He said that the Browns is the Browns, and he wasn't really expecting much out of this team. Do you think that Juju maybe should start being a little bit
Right.
more quiet by next season?
I'm so glad you brought this up because I feel so passionately about this. I love Juju. I think he's a great guy and everything, but he has got to stop. The dancing on opposing teams' logos, the bashing, the disrespect is just so unprofessional, and I just can't get with it. And he looks like a damn fool when they lose. Like, it doesn't even bother me, the TikTok dancing, but like the disrespect is just uncalled for and should definitely be kept to himself next season.
I 100% agree with you. I even talked about this in the past that I was like, I'm cool with him making TikToks. If he wants to make TikToks in the locker room with his pal Chase Claypool, I'm fine with that. But the dancing on the logos was
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
the dancing on the logos was so weird and like not good at all. And especially it was like when it came down to that Bengals game that they
No.
lost, I was like, Juju, what are you doing? I like Juju too. I think he seems like a great kid. But I agree with you. It's time to, unless you have gone undefeated all season and you've beaten these teams and you have something to say about it, say whatever you want to say. But otherwise, like you can't just go around saying the Browns is
Juju,
the
you can
Browns.
dance on the logos if you make it to the Super Bowl. If you make it to
Yeah,
the
you
Super Bowl,
go.
you win. Go ahead, dance on the logos. Have at
Yeah,
it.
yeah, 100%. But I was like, I if I were that Steelers team, I'd be like, hey man, like maybe tone it down a little because you're making us look stupid as a whole team.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was basically, I mean, this game was, I would say the Bills game and this game were probably the two best games of the weekend, first and last. But otherwise, this
Yeah.
super wild card weekend was one for the books, one for the books for sure. So
It was.
before we wrap everything up, I just want to go over the four games that are for next week, and I just want to get your quick predictions on them, who you think is going to win.
Sure.
So we'll start with the Saturday games. The first game is going to be the Rams at the Packers. Who do you got for this game?
I got the Packers. They are more of a solid football team on both sides of the ball. And not only that, but the weapons that Aaron Rodgers has at his disposal are just getting better every weekend. And however, I do think that the Packers will have their hands full with the Rams defense.
Yeah, when I'm exactly the same as you. I'm going with the Packers here. That Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he's going to be stopped. I think he's had an excellent season so far. I don't see the Rams being the one that takes them down, for several reasons, but definitely that the fact that Aaron Rodgers
Yeah.
has his weapons, he has his Devonte Adams, his Robert Tonyans down the field. He's good
Mm-hmm.
to go, and
Yep.
And Aaron Donald might be hurt on the Rams, so their defense might not even be that strong. So
Right. I forgot about that.
yeah, he I think he did something to his
That's good
ribs.
news for them.
Yeah. And even if he does play, he probably won't be 100%. So that game, I agree. We both have the Packers on. The second Saturday game is the Ravens at the Bills. Who do you got for that game?
I got the Bills. The Bills for sure. Offensively speaking, the Bills are more of a sound and successful football team, in my opinion. I mean, at some point, we got to realize that it's not the Baltimore Lamar Jackson team. I mean,
Yeah, no, but
so yeah,
you're
I got the
you're you're
Bills
right.
here.
You're right. It's not, this isn't the Baltimore Lamar Jacksons, it's the Baltimore Ravens, and they are not going to win if it's just him playing. But like I said earlier, I'm riding this Bills bandwagon till the wheels fall off. I'm going with the Bills here. Josh Allen, I mean, I think last
There
week
you go.
he might have struggled a little bit. I think that he was starting to panic at the end of the game there.
Yeah.
He was just like, oh God, like we're only 3 points ahead. Like we got to do this, and this. But hopefully after that win, he gains some
Right.
confidence and, he goes into this next game, which won't be easy. It's not going to be an easy game to win, but hopefully
No.
he gets a little bit more
Mm-mm.
confidence for sure. All right. And then the Sunday games, we have the Browns at the Chiefs.
I'm gonna pick the Chiefs. The Browns, as of right now, are missing several offensive linemen, and because of that, the Browns aren't exactly playing perfect football right now. And to even have a chance at beating the Kansas City Chiefs, we all know that you have to play, if not perfect, next to perfect football.
Yeah, as much as we're all praising the Browns right now for this incredible and unexpected win over the Steelers, I also have the Chiefs only because they've just come off a bye week, like they're rested and they are ready to go in terms of just
Mm-hmm.
like their playoff run, and they're ready to repeat everything from last year. But I like it's possible. I think this game might be kind of interesting, a little bit close because a lot of people
Yeah.
weren't expecting it. So I think that while the while the Chiefs will probably win this game, I think you were saying earlier, this seems
Mm-hmm.
like Patrick Mahomes isn't the same Patrick Mahomes that he was last year, and we've seen some vulnerability throughout this season. But again, with this bye week, I
Right.
think that's going to make a difference that they've rested for the past week, and even Patrick Mahomes didn't play the last week against the
Yeah.
Chargers, so he's been rested for 2 weeks. I would be
Right. Right.
afraid.
I
I would be
forgot that.
afraid. Yeah, that's the only reason why the Chiefs lost to the Chargers is because it was all their second stringers. Nobody was really in playing that game super hard.
Yeah.
But no, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs here
But I
too.
also feel like it'll depend on the if the Browns have their offensive line back, then I mean I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult for the Chiefs. But if the Browns can't get their O line healthy, then I don't see them
Mhm.
winning.
Yeah, but if with even a healthy offensive line, I think it's gonna be a really interesting game, and I'm like super excited for it. And then finally, the last game on Sunday is the Buccaneers
Yeah.
at the Saints, which is our old man special, our over 40 special. Who do you got for Bucks at Saints?
This one is kind of tough because both these teams can be wishy-washy at points, but I'm gonna go with the Bucks for this one. I feel as though Drew Brees just isn't performing at the same level he was prior to his rib injury. And on the other hand, I think Brady is frustrated that he didn't perform the way he knows he can with this team, and I think they're going to be sharp and ready for this face-off.
Interesting. So this is the one game that we'll disagree on. I'm gonna go with the Saints, only because throughout the regular season, we saw the Saints completely obliterate the Buccaneers. There was a Sunday night game, which was supposed to be like the game of the week, and Drew Brees put up 38 points, and Tom Brady couldn't get a touchdown. They scored 3 points at the end of the game, and that was really disappointing. I think that playoff Tom Brady is different than regular season Tom Brady. I think that he's definitely going to, like you were saying, put up more of a fight and be a little bit more aggressive. But I'm just thinking Saints, I think they also weren't really excited about their performance this week. So I think they're also going to be a little bit more on top of their game.
Yeah.
And I have the Saints winning this game. But otherwise, we agreed on 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, we sure do. So that was a recap of our wild card weekend. And Brittany, I really want to appreciate you for coming on and talking with me about this, because this was really fun. Why don't you plug your Instagram one more time before we go?
My Instagram is footballisfemale.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm, again, super nice Instagram page. I really like it. I love your pink and your sparkles. I think they're so cute and so pretty. And if you're a woman listening to this, interested in football, definitely give her page a follow so that you can keep up to date on all of your football knowledge. All right, Brittany, thank you so much for coming on, and we're going to go back to our regular scheduled podcast.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, Sam. Bye, everyone.
All right, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed that interview with Brittany. Make sure that you give her Instagram a follow at footballisfemale. She got some great stuff on there. All right, everybody. So we're going to jump into our segments for today's show. And for the first time in a few weeks, I think we are doing we're doing all of our segments this week. So that's super exciting. Let's get into our first segment on the show, and my favorite segment on the show, Tea Time. Tea Time is my favorite segment on the show because we delve into the hot, steamy gossip of the sports world, and this week we got the tea. All right, everybody. So I saw this on Twitter, and to be quite honest with you, I didn't think it was real because it was so mean. But apparently, grown men love calling other grown men out, which is my favorite thing. So we're going to talk about this. Basically, what happened was, former defensive end for the Minnesota Vikings, Everson Griffin, who now plays for the Lions, but apparently he's been trying to get back into the Vikings organization, called out Kirk Cousins on Twitter for no reason, really. I don't know why he started tweeting all this stuff out, but let me read you the tweets that he put out because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So he added the official Vikings Twitter account and said, Kirk Cousins is ass. Thank you. For no reason. Just I don't understand. I don't know if Kirk did something to him. There's no backstory on it. Then he responded to that same tweet and said, ask Zimmer, the coach of the Vikings, if he wanted Kirk. And then after that he said, he will tell you the truth. Who wanted Kirk Cousins? Take your guess. About a couple hours after he put out all these tweets, they were deleted, completely gone. But that's the beauty of the internet. Nothing is ever gone. People take screenshots. People save things. Once you put stuff out on the internet, it's very, very difficult to completely delete it. So then he puts out more tweets and is basically trying to save his butt here. So he says, I'm sorry for posting that about Kirk. It's not right for me to call people out. I apologize for hurting him. I'm very grateful and thankful. Then he posts another tweet and said, at Vikings, I'm sorry for saying anything negative. I love this organization. Vikings will always have a place in my heart. If you want it, go get it. All love for real. So, why this man pursuing a job at the organization the Vikings, then calls out the quarterback of the Vikings saying that he's ass. It doesn't make any sense, but I just need to know what the thought process here was. I haven't seen anything from Kirk Cousins. I didn't see anything from the Vikings organization saying, like, we know what Everson said, we know this and that, blah, blah, blah. But, like, the whole point of this is that if he just happened to be an ex-player or just an ex-Viking on another team, and Kirk Cousins, like, said this, and that to him, and he was like, you know what, I'm going to expose Kirk Cousins, I'm going to tell you, you know, me and him were not cool, we were not friends, we, you know, all this stuff went down between us, I'm going to call him out. If that was the case, I mean, still super spicy tea, but there's a motive there. Why this man just decided to rip on Kirk Cousins on Twitter on, you know, whatever day of the week this was. I think it was on January 9th. That was Saturday. On a Saturday afternoon. The Vikings aren't even in the playoffs. They're not playing. You know, it's not like he's looking at Kirk Cousins playing awful in a playoff game and said, like, hey, you guys know that Kirk Cousins isn't a good quarterback. I don't know where this came from. I don't know why it all came out, but it did, and he deleted all those tweets, but obviously we can still see them because people take screenshots, and I don't understand why the Vikings would even consider taking him back now, knowing that he doesn't like Kirk Cousins and doesn't think he's a good quarterback. So that is our tea for this week, is the fact that Everson Griffen just decided to go off for no reason on Kirk Cousins, on a team he's trying to get back onto. And, like, he's like a 10-year veteran there. He was a 10-year veteran. Then they let him go in free agency. I don't understand. But we love it. We love seeing the tweets. We love the Twitter drama. It would be really fun if Kirk Cousins said something back, but I haven't seen anything. I don't even know if Kirk Cousins is on Twitter. But the whole thing is just really weird and completely just blew my mind. So that's our tea time for this week. Our next segment on the show is our Let's Talk About It segment, and this week we are going to talk about sporting events in different time zones. So I want to bring this up. Because of the fact that obviously, you know, here on the East Coast is a different time than there on the West Coast, and, you know, there's a 3-hour difference. So last night, college football playoff, or college football championship rather, is on. Starts at 8 o'clock. This game went on for 4 hours. It was midnight by the time it finished up. Now, someone like me that, you know, has enjoyed college football championships in the past, I wanted to watch it. It is what it is. But I had to sit down and watch a football game for 4 hours. Now, thinking back on it, if you live in, let's say, California, and you count back 3 to, you know, 5 o'clock on a Sunday night, Sunday evening, you know, it comes around to 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock that game was over in California. I just want to know, I know that in California, in terms of just like when the regular season is on, my best friend lives in California. She says that when she watches football at 1 p.m. our time, Eastern time, it's 10 a.m. in California. She turns on the TV the second that she wakes up in the morning. But in terms of games like this, can we just make it like an hour earlier, or, 6 o'clock our time? I know 3 p.m. maybe isn't the best time for California, but it's a Sunday. They're sitting, nobody's really at work. It would make our lives so much easier if you just started at least even an hour early. The game would have ended at 11 o'clock. First of all, 4 hours for a football game, way too long. Way too long in my book. I definitely clocked out for the third quarter of that game because I was just like, I don't know, Alabama's going to win. And they did. And congrats to Alabama for their 7th national championship in 10 years, I believe. So it really drives me crazy. I know that there's a lot of other people involved, but think of the UK. I mean, we had Across the Pond podcast on a couple weeks ago, and James from Across the Pond lives in Scotland. He's up at 2:30 in the morning. I know we cannot just please everyone. It's unfortunate that not everyone just lives in the same time zone, but can we just make those later games at 7 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock? I think that would just make me less sleepy and more apt to watch this game. So that's our Let's Talk About It for this week. We talked about it. I don't know if anything can even be fixed for this, but I will complain about East Coast time forever. It goes on for too late. Too late. I don't enjoy it. All right, let's get into our last segment on the show, our tweet of the week. So our tweet of the week this week is it's not just a text tweet. It includes a picture, which makes the tweet our tweet of the week this week. So this week I saw this on Alvin Kamara's Twitter yesterday, the 11th, at around 9 o'clock at night. Super stoked to see Alvin Kamara out here tweeting a box of things that he owns. Just casual. He comments this picture or tweets this picture out, and he puts 5th and 6th TD ball and some other stuff. And I'm not thinking anything of it. I'm like, oh, cool, his jersey's in there. You can see the 2 game balls he got. And then I'm like, oh, those are his red and green Christmas cleats that he wore on his Christmas game. Which then I was like, oh, wow, I remember the NFL fined him $5,000 for those because they're stupid and just decided to fine a man for wearing red and green cleats. But the best part of this tweet is that if you zoom in, and if you're watching on the YouTube video, I'll put the picture in the video so that you can see. You can zoom in. Right on top of the cleats is a white envelope labeled A. Kamara, and it says NFL fine letter. So this man put the cleats he was fined for, plus his game balls, plus one of his jerseys, with the letter the NFL sent him about being fined $5,000. And to be quite honest, if you can't see how this is our tweet of the week, you need glasses, because that is the funniest thing I've seen this week. Absolutely wonderful. Congrats, Alvin Kamara. I mean, I know $5,000 for them isn't as much money as it would be to someone else, but the fine was kind of silly. I don't understand why they get fined for things like that, but that it happened, and Alvin Kamara made a bit of a joke about it. Okay, finishing off our show, people. So we have our feel-good story of the week, and then we will say goodbye. So this week on our feel-good story of the week, we have Aaron Rodgers. So obviously everybody, well, I'm sure not everybody, but a lot of people like Aaron Rodgers. He's a fun person, and he's kind of weird, which is fun. Like we love a weird Aaron Rodgers. The feel-good story of the week this week is that Aaron Rodgers has announced that he will be a guest host on Jeopardy in the near future. So obviously there was a really sad passing of Alex Trebek, and since then they've been trying to find people to host Jeopardy. They're I think looking for a permanent host. I think Ken Jennings is in the mix there, who is one of the Jeopardy all-time champions. But they're looking for guest hosts as well, and they have Aaron Rodgers coming in to guest host Jeopardy, and I think that's really fun and really cool, and I'm definitely going to tune in and see how Aaron Rodgers does with that. Aaron Rodgers is kind of all over the place. He's been an extra in Game of Thrones, so you could say he's got an acting background and all this stuff going on, but he announced this on the Pat McAfee show, which is so funny. But he came out and was just like, yeah, I was given the opportunity to guest host Jeopardy, and, in a few short weeks, we'll be seeing Aaron Rodgers there. So not the same Aaron Rodgers that we're used to seeing on the football field, but I'm really excited to see Aaron Rodgers guest host Jeopardy. I think that's going to be super, super cool. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for our show this week. I want to thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on any podcasting platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere that you get your podcasts from. Please follow or subscribe, as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Girl Who Talks Sports. Make sure that you turn on notifications to make sure that you don't miss any extra content videos I might be posting. And then don't forget to follow us on social media, TGWTS Podcast, both Twitter and Instagram. I appreciate you guys so much. I hope that you all have a fun, fantastic, sports-filled day. Please make sure to wear your masks, social distance, stay safe, wash your hands, all that good stuff. And I will see you guys all next week for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Bye!